is saying, I have not sent you, we have not sent you except as mercy to all people. Rahmatul lil Alameen. When I was a young person, when I first read this ayah, I was so thrilled. I thought this was proof that there was life on another planet, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about all the worlds, so I thought there were other worlds out there. But what it really means, at least according to traditional scholars, is that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has been sent as mercy not only to humanity, but also to the environment, and also to planet Earth. So he has been sent here to protect people, and to protect our environment, to protect this planet, to protect this universe. So that is the whole point. And there is no philosophical position or a formula which allows Muslims to measure the relative merit of verses of the Quran. So you cannot say this verse is more important than that verse unless Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself had explained that to you. I'm not going to go into the theories of abrogation, but when you encounter a verse of the Quran, the full meaning of that verse is applicable. Unless Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has told you that it is limited by something else. And there is no tradition and no other verse in the Quran which limits the full meaning of this verse, that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has been sent as nothing but mercy. He cannot be an avenger. He cannot be a dictator. People cannot be afraid of him. So what do we mean as a mercy to humanity? What it means that him and his message. In our case, the messenger is also the message. Remember that. When we say that the two sources of Islam are the Quran, which is the message, and the messenger, which is the Sunnah. So the messenger is also the message. So when we say Prophet ﷺ is mercy to humanity, which means his message is also mercy to humanity. There is nothing else that Islam can be to everybody in this world except compassion and mercy. It cannot be a source of anger, it cannot be a source of terror, it cannot be a source of violence. Unfortunately, we are living in a times where Muslims are having perhaps one of the worst times in their history. Among scholars, we like to now talk about it as the age of the new fitna. We've had two fitnas in the past. This is perhaps the third fitna. It is an age in which Muslims kill Muslims, Muslims kill others. Everybody is frightened of Muslims, including Muslims. Today, on the day of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's birthday, people went into a university in Peshawar, Pakistan, and killed 9 young people because the university was celebrating Milad al-Nabi. And it had 3 days holidays. It is amazing. Even if you think that the celebration of Milad is wrong, how is killing Muslims, how is killing anybody a right thing to do? Last week, in a village called Al-Rawda in Sinai, Salafi jihadis went into a mosque, killed 311 people. The death toll has reached 311. Some are still critical in the hospital. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them shifa. 311 people were killed and dozens more were injured. It is amazing the way it was done. It was as if these people had determined to be extremely merciless and brutal to the core. They blew up bombs in the mosque, waited outside for people to run, gunned them down, and then ambushed those who came to provide relief to these people. It was that systematic. Of course, it is a commentary on the ability of the Egyptian state to provide security for its people, but how can that happen? How can human beings do this? This is the question that is the question of our times. The man in Las Vegas killed 59 and shot 500 people. Our health system is so good, we saved many of them. If this was in Egypt, maybe the death toll would have been so much higher than Las Vegas, because the healthcare system is not that good instantaneously. A week before the shooting in the mosque al-Rawda, if you notice, there's a huge debate going on in the Western media as to who Sufi Muslims are because of that, because the mosque was described as a Sufi. It's a Zawiya of a new silsila. About a week before the shooting, ISIS fighters came to the masjid and made two demands. They demanded that the mosque stop celebrating Milad al-Nabi, number one, and number two, that they stop doing zikr, the circles of zikrs that they have, the zawiyas. That is what they do in that masjid. And when they did not do that, people came, among other reasons. Of course, there's some geopolitics also behind the motivation, to kill and systematically massacre. How can this be Islam? How can this be the message which has been sent as nothing but mercy to all of humanity? That is the question that we have to ask. We live in a time when Muslims are divided at every level. Within individuals, we see the divisions. Here in the Dallas Muslim community, some of our great imams and leaders of the Muslim community are suing each other for stealing business secrets. And what are those business secrets? They are dawah techniques. Can you imagine that you're suing another Islamic scholar saying, you have stolen my dawah techniques and reduced my income by $1 million, you need to pay back. That is at the individual level. We have struggled at the group levels. Salafi, Sufi, Tablighi Jamaat versus Jamaat Islami. At every level we seem to succeed in dividing ourselves. And the irony of this is also at the international level. The irony of this is that sadly these divisions are done in the pursuit of unity. That is the sad part of it. Every group that is getting divided and attacking each other, leading to this destruction of state, society, wealth, history, etc. In 2011, I spent 5 weeks in Istanbul. I wanted to buy a motorcycle and ride it all the way to Damascus. And then I decided that the nicest person I met in Damascus, a young man, I would give my bike to him and then fly back. I just stayed 3 weeks extra, and there was nothing left to see in Damascus now. The war and the conflict began. We have destroyed our history, our culture, our tradition. We are wiping our history out. For what? Because people in the Muslim world have become profoundly arrogant about their religion. They think that they and their faith alone and their interpretation of Islam is the only correct interpretation of Islam, and everybody else's interpretation is wrong and therefore should be excluded. And if in the United States we cannot boycott them, everywhere else we will kill them. There may be a lot of you who disagree with the celebration of Maulid. Fine, stay at home, watch TV. Some of you will come and tell me, why do you do it on this day? Why don't you do it another day? The masjid is open for you, brother. Come and do it every day. Just leave Maulid for me. The rest of the 364 days, you come and do. You don't even show up. When we need volunteers, there's nobody here. But to create fitna, there's a long line. It's a credit to the US government and the security forces that we don't have violence here. The inability of our country's governments to provide security is why you see so much violence in the place over even small disagreements. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hujurat 49 verse 11, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la yastar qawmun min qawmin asa'an yakunu khayran minhum. This is such a beautiful verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling, let the believers know that when one community demonizes another community, when one community mocks another community, when one community basically essentially does takfir towards another community, it is possible that that community is better than you. So next time you think you're better than somebody else, remember this verse. This is the literal meaning. I'm giving you a very simplistic meaning. A much profounder meaning is that the moment you start thinking of another group as inferior in the eyes of Allah, you become inferior. You need to have a philosophical and mystical depth to accept that. But even the literal meaning that is acceptable, the moment you start demonizing another community, recognize the possibility that they are better than you. This arrogance, this kibr, that I know my deen and I know it correctly. And no one else, and anybody else who disagrees with me is wrong, worthy of death. That creates this chaos. One of the most horrendous scenes today is Muslims running away from the Muslim world. How much of a condemnation do you need of our understanding of our deen that our people would rather live somewhere else in search of safety, in search of security, in search of freedom of religion? The Prophet ﷺ said many times, if you are not a Muslim, you're not a Muslim, you're not a Muslim, if your neighbor is afraid of you. Desire for your brother what you desire for yourself. And wouldn't you want peace? Isn't that why we are all here? In pursuit of peace and prosperity. Wouldn't we want that for others? That is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 10 of the Quran, verse 99, please listen to this carefully. Think about it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. This verse is also addressed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if I had wanted, if your Lord had wished, He would have created everybody as believers on this earth. Everybody would have been Sunni, Salafi, whatever you want and you think is the best form of Islam. That is what everybody on earth would be. So this is what God is telling Prophet Muhammad. If I wanted, I would have made them all believers to begin with. Why are you trying to compel them to believe? He's implying that I have given them freedom of religion and freedom of choice. Who are you to compel them to believe? And of course, the scholars have interpreted this by saying, of course, the Prophet of God never compelled anybody to believe. This is the Quran's way of teaching us not to compel others to believe in what we believe. If people want to come closer to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ today, let them do. Maybe this will transform their lives. Who are you to stop it? Backbiting, mobilizing against masjid, trying to undermine mosques which are here to serve God. What kind of a believer you are? That is the question you need to ask yourself. And this verse is substantiated by another verse in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah, Inna hadhihi tazkiratun. Indeed, this is a reminder to you. فَمَنْ شَاءَ أَتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ سَبِيلًا. This is a reminder to you that each one of you should seek a way to Allah yourself. Islam is not a religion for dummies. But there is a dummier version for it if you want. If you want to be brain dead, yes, there is a brain dead literalist version of Islam you can follow, you'll still go to Jannah, inshallah. But if you are a cognitive being, a sentient being, capable of reason, capable of compassion, capable of philosophical reflection, if you want to understand the secrets of God, if you want to be from among one of those who are called as Arifin, then reflect on the verse. And this ayah is so profound that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if I wanted, I would have created you as believers, but I've given you freedom of choice so that each one of you find your own way to me. He wants sophisticated servants, not brain dead. He created angels and animals and trees to worship Him. Every aspect of the universe worships Him. There is nothing in the universe that does not worship Him all the time except human beings who have been given the choice and we choose not to. This is very important for us to believe, that we have to understand that there is different ways and different levels in which people can understand our religion. As long as they're moving towards God, it doesn't matter if they're in the middle of the lane or the side lane or on the sidewalk. Some are racing, some are walking. Let them go. Islam is a love affair between a loving servant and a compassionate God. Do not get in the middle. When you are worried about other people and other people's worship, you have forgotten your own path. Stay on your straight path, on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Don't lose your sight. Stay in your lane. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing on that lane. Prophet ﷺ also told us very clearly to mind our business. There are many hadiths to that effect. There's one more ayah that I want you to reflect. This is verse 18 from Surah 39. It is perhaps one of the most profoundest verses in the Quran, at least in my view. And may Allah forgive me if I'm wrong. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ. When you hear the word of Quran being recited to you, take the most beautiful meaning of